All right. Clang, 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 as Tom Green would say. Hello and welcome. I hope you all have had a fantastic week. 2 weeks? I think it might have been 2 weeks. I'm not sure. The concept of time is pretty crazy to me now, so I could not tell you. We are back. So that can only mean one thing. I'll wait for this audio commercial that I'm playing through my SoundCloud right now to finish, so I can go ahead and play my own song. But let's just go ahead and love what they have to say. Nice. Yum. Okay. All right. I think that's very apropos. We're bringing our ideas to life. What I'm doing right now, right? So I might as well stay tried and true to this, and here we go.
We the best! Improv Basics with Jeremy Mariel. Another one!
Damn, another one already. And this week, I think, and I'm gonna stay true to it, it's gonna be a fairly short class. You know, every time I say that, I still stick with about an hour and 12, hour and 20. I don't think I'm gonna do that because what I'm gonna be talking about today, I'm not gonna go super in depth on because I don't want to step on any toes, right? But you know, Jeremy Monreal, if you don't know the name, he has been said to be the human embodiment of little dick energy. That was said by a wise person. Also, what has been said about him is he goes to bed crying at night. Can confirm. Jeremy has to remain anonymous. I don't think that was. Anyways, we'll continue. That's weird. I think they wrote that wrong. I don't even know why my name was in it. And I definitely do go to bed crying at night. Anyways, so today we're going to be talking about game. And we all know games in different ways. I don't know if we know what game means in improv. I'll go ahead and I think put the definition directly right here. Game is defined by being the first unusual thing to happen in a scene, right? Something that veers from reality. And I put this as a disclaimer that points given in this class, they're sourced from the Upright Citizens Brigade Improvisation Manual. So if you want to go ahead and purchase that at any point, go ahead and follow the link in my YouTube eventually, the YouTube description, but also in the Twitch chat, because I do these live every other week. So the reason I don't think that this is going to last very long, like I said, I'm not going to be diving deep into everything. There's so many aspects to cover when it comes to game. And I think, you know, a lot of different schools cover different ways to do improv and their focal points, and UCB is a large focal point of it is game. And the reason we have game, right, is because we want to have something fun to play in a scene. We want to have something funny, right? Let's see what the next slide is before I go ahead and give away too much. So how do we find game? It's not always implemented right away, right? So here's some ways. You play by playing honestly, you know, playing a scene realistically, giving honest reactions, and playing to the top of your intelligence. By playing realistically, you can pinpoint the first unusual thing. I'll go ahead and read this description at the top of your intelligence too. I believe I've described it in prior classes as well. Responding truthfully in said scenarios. It does not mean that you have to be the smartest one in the scene, right? It just insinuates you respond as real to life given circumstances set. Oh, I think I wanted to put a comma. As real to life given the circumstances set. Something like that. Relationship, occupation, stakes. That was a lot wordier because I didn't want to say verbatim, right? But UCB kind of put it down very succinctly for me and something I really related to, because this phrase, a lot of the time I've been very self-conscious about and just afraid of, because to me, when you hear this off the bat, it means like, oh, you have to be the smartest person in the scene, right? You have to know everything about what you guys are talking about. You have to know every aspect of the thing that you're doing in that scene, the ins and outs, the practices, the history of it. And it was too heady for me to really resonate with me. So UCB talks about how you want to marry your verbal response with an emotional response, right? So playing at the top of your intelligence doesn't mean that you have to know everything about that subject, right? It just means that you have to respond truthfully and to the best knowledge of whatever you're labeled, right? If you're labeled a train conductor, to the best of your ability, to the top of your intelligence, you know what a train conductor does. Talk about what you know. You don't have to worry about what you don't know. Just talk about what you do know. Play it organically, play it honestly, and don't worry about the rest, right? Where it says relationship, right? Our UCB kind of talks about that, where they're talking about interacting through a filter, right? You have a character, but your character acts differently depending on who they're talking to. And I believe we've touched on this a little bit in prior lessons as well. But they might, if they're like really douchey douches, right? They have someone in their life that they respect and they are more mindful to when they're responding or talking to them. So just figuring out what that filter is when you're talking to your friend, when you're talking to your lover, when you're talking to a boss, right? Depending on class or anything, what's that filter? And that's kind of playing at the top of your intelligence. And the reason you want to play to the top of your intelligence and play realistically and honestly is because it can really highlight what the weird, unusual thing is, right? We don't want to start the scene with something unusual. We want to start the scene with given circumstances of a who, what, and where. And we want to just respond naturally. And the weird thing's going to come up. It happens a lot, right? A lot of people try and implement it themselves and don't let it happen organically. But it's more fruitful when you discover it together, right? How else should I say? Framing. That's one of the things you do when you're playing honestly and realistically, right? Framing is a technique that people in UCB use when they want to tell their partner, oh, that was weird. That was weird, just so you know. It could be anything, right? And all they have to do, they can do it in a multitude of ways, but a lot of things is they just repeat it, almost like questioning it, right? Oh, I'm late for work. I might as well. I'm really bad at on-the-spot examples. I have examples featured, but I'm really bad at on-the-spot examples. Oh, well, I'm late for work. I might as well just tear down the house. That is the worst example I could give. And that's not true. I could give far worse examples. But the second person in the scene will be like, you're gonna tear down the house? So that's them just lightly telling them, oh, that was weird. And I'm framing it for you so you know that is a weird thing to say and or do because of said circumstances. And that's just a subtle way that they use interaction by framing it, right? And creating a pattern. So a game is nothing if not a pattern. By framing it, right, the person does the first move. Framing it is the second one, like, oh, is this what you meant? And the third move is a confirmation. Now we've created a pattern, right? This is what you meant. They do it a second time, right? Something different, something along the same lines to solidify the game. And the third one is a confirmation where it's just like, yes, you are now in the game. This is the game. We both know what we're doing. Now we can continue playing that game in different ways. Oh, it says right there. Something weird happened, do it again in a different way to create a solidified pattern. And they have really great graphs and examples in the book of Improvisation Manual for UCB. And it just equates it to like numbers, right? You see numbers all aligned. You don't understand a pattern until probably the third one. You see a 2, you see a 4, you're like, oh, that's kind of weird. then you see a 6, and you're like, okay, there's a pattern going on. They're going up by 2 each time, right? So that's what you want to do. You want to create a pattern with your game. And I hate to do this, but I have to turn on my air conditioning because you can't see, but I'm glistening, which means I'm really sweating back here. So give me 1 second. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I really think I'm gonna just be plowing through this, because there's so much to game in general, and there's so much that I've left out for you to discover through the UCB Improvisation Manual, because I think it is a great book to refer to or to defer to whenever you want to learn stuff. It's very thick in terms of the book, not as big as the Spolin one, but it's still pretty big. What did I put next? Oh, how do we play a game? Look, I don't even know how to do my slides now. Heightening. Okay, so if this unusual thing is true, then what else is true? Right? So once we've created the game, we understand what the unusual thing is. We heighten it by raising the stakes. What else is true if this is true, right? Exploring, if this unusual thing is true, then why is it true? And exploring or exploration is different than heightening because you're living in the choice a little bit more. You're not making a brand new choice that is in line with the game. Like, oh, this is the same thing but a little bit bigger, and this is the same thing but a little bit grander. Exploring is just living in it and finding out why that is true. And that comes from justification, right? Bringing reason to the madness helps flesh out a character and gives them purpose behind their actions instead of being high or crazy. And that is never a strong move to play. And I have also spoken on that already. But you always want to make sure that the choices of your character are of their own volition, right? Once we say they're high or they're crazy, we place the circumstance or we give credit to those two things. Oh, they're making that decision because of this. They're making that decision because of this. And we want it to be that they're making that decision because it's who they are, right? This is always who they've been. And exploring why they make those decisions is a little bit more creative and fruitful than just being like, oh my gosh, you're so high, you're so drunk. This character is always like this. So justify. And don't be weak with it. Don't just label them as crazy. Don't just label them as high. Don't label them as drunk. Give them a specific label that leads them to know why are they like that. And reacting to the top of your intelligence, right? Keeping the scene grounded by responding truthfully. So a lot of the time, once we figure out the game, we want to just heighten because we get too excited. Well, if that's true, then what else is true? Oh my gosh. When I first learned about game, because I've been studying improv a long time, and when I first started, I leaned more towards the groundlings train of thought, which is more so character and emotion based, because I figured and I felt that at the base of every scene, the foundation is character and emotion, right? Who I am, who we are, how I feel. And I still do believe that firmly, but I found when I first heard of game, I kind of thought it was cheap. I hate to say that, but I really was down on it for a long time because I thought about it like this. We go in a scene and someone casually states, oh, they're afraid of deli meat. Okay, well, that's weird. All right, so if that's true, well, then I want to put them in this circumstance. Oh, well, your new roommate here is on Atkins. They can only eat meat, right? So that heightens it a little bit. Oh, well, I just signed us up for a sausage fest convention. And it would just heighten in those moves, which were very like, oh my gosh, this is not grounded in anything. It's very cheesy. And that's kind of how I felt game was. It was very negative. And as I grew up and as I read the UCB Improvisation Manual, I've read it 2.5, almost 3 times, almost there. I've learned to kind of love it, and that that it is something that they focus on, but it's not necessarily the focal point of your scene. Game can be implemented in any scene, but there's still a lot to a scene outside of that funny thing. It just gives you something funny to come back to have fun and let your audience know that you're having fun and that they should be having fun. This is a funny thing. And really the exploration is where I found it was a lot of fun, giving reason to the madness, as I put there. And now I'm almost like firmly doubling up on game. Like it's a lot easier to comprehend once you understand it with a team. And once you get past like the really slow process of understanding how to identify a game, it becomes very natural and second nature. And heightening, although it can be a little bit cheesy sometimes, it helps pick up the pace. And it's like how people tell everyone nowadays that, you know, things have changed, the attention span has changed, everyone's there for 15 seconds. And that can kind of equate to today, right? Where people want something quickly, they want it now. Oh, that was funny, give me more, give me more. And that's what heightening does. It's an immediate satiates. Oh man, whatever. I'm not the smartest, but I know a little bit about what I'm talking about. So it's just immediately going to get them to where they want to be. They're like, yes, this is great, never stop. The problem with only heightening, I have a graph from the UCB Improvisation Manual on the next slide, so I'll just go to it. So this is the problem with heightening as opposed to heightening and exploring, right? When you only heighten, it goes up and up and up. And when you heighten and explore, they tell you in the book to just imagine it almost as steps, right? It's a heighten move, and you explore that move that you just did. You heighten it again, you explore it, you heighten and explore it. As you can see, it has more longevity in a scene. And that's really how it feels. It's not just, you know, appeasing the audience. It's building something with yourself so you can enjoy it too, right? I think there's a time and place for both of these. In a long form structure that you put together, a show, 30 minutes, right? If you did all exploration, oh my gosh, that 30 minutes would be terrible. If you did all heightening, it would be manic. But I think you can utilize both in your long form structure to help dictate some pace and keep the energy alive. I think I did a slide next after this, but seriously, after I go to it, that's going to be the end of this video. So maybe I'll try and, I don't know, we'll just go to the next slide and we can talk about it. So this is going to be a scene that I very quickly put together, and hopefully it utilizes some of the things we were talking about, framing, heightening, exploring, stuff like that within a scene. Okay, player one. Hey boss, you wanted to see me? Yes, please take a seat. I've noticed a decrease in our sales since your campaign launched. I think a dip in Olive Garden branch sales were due to the pandemic, just to be fair. I don't need excuses, I want you to do better. I just wanted you to know why you were being spanked today. Okay, that's weird. I just wanted you to know why you were being spanked today. So off rip right here, we've established a who, what, and where, right? It is a boss and employee in the boss's office, and they're discussing a decrease in sales, so he's in trouble. And yeah, it might have been a little bit forced. I'm trying to do it quickly so that you can see that a little bit more. But me, as an improviser, would be on stage. I understand that a boss wouldn't normally spank you, so I want to respond to the top of my intelligence, right? Honestly, marrying my emotional response with my verbal response. And I put it right there. I framed it. Being spanked? So I'm letting I'm letting my boss know, or improviser, that's weird. That's very weird, and I framed it, right? So now the boss knows. Granted, I'm sure he already knew it based on this dialogue. I'm sure now he knows, oh, that was weird. Okay. If this is true, then what else is true, right? Let's see. Okay. Don't make me count to 3. He pats his leg. 1, 2. It's funny because I hear this stuff in my head and then I write it, but then once I repeat it, it's terrible. Don't make me count to 3. 1, 2. So if that was true that he was going to spank, what else? And he's acting as a father would, right? And he's acting as a father would. Then what else does a father do, right? They don't always just spank you right away. They don't do that. They give you time. They want to let you know it's going to happen. It's going to happen whether you want it or not. I'll give you it on your terms. On 3, don't make me count to 3. It's going to happen, but if I count to 3, it's going to be worse. And this person is responding to the top of their intelligence, right? Responding naturally, realistically, like, I'm not going to get spanked. This person's a grown adult. You're my boss. I'm not going to get spanked. 2.5. Okay. 2.5, right? So the boss is not going to be, he's not shakeable. The boss is not shakeable. You're going to be spanked. All right? I'm still counting. You can be a bratty little brat all you want. 2.5. You're not my dad, as my friend Sam would say. So that is, again, top of your intelligence. You're responding realistically. You're not my dad. Okay, so then this one. Okay, you remember the last page of your onboarding paperwork where it said when you're here? Oh, wow. I spelled your wrong. Oh, no, I thought I fixed it. Oh, wow. Embarrassing. I want you guys to know in the chat. You know what? Let's go ahead and fix this. Let's go ahead and fix this, okay? We're not going to go ahead and continue. All right. When you're here, you like how I have to do this? I'm like, yo, I have to make sure that you know at home I know how it's spelled. Okay. Boom. Wow. Like it never happened. Remember the last page of your onboarding paperwork where it said when you're here, your family? Those were adoption papers. 2 3/4. So I labeled that in yellow because it's an exploration move, right? Why, if you think you're my father, why do you think you're my father? Why is it true? And notice how I'm not making this person crazy. Like, this is a very logical response and justification. You were onboarded, right? You had your paperwork in your hand, signed at all the dotted lines. You're my son, whether you like it or not. Okay, we're family. Which gives it a realistic thing. Instead of someone being crazy, it has purpose behind it. Why would you adopt over 283 employees? Okay, that's just like a little bit more oomph. It was a response line. It's still responding naturally, organically, and being realistic because this person's like, that is weird. Like, why would you do that? And you have so many kids. You have so many kids. A Fast Company article did a study where 85% of companies were more productive when operating like a family. 3. So again, that's another exploration move, right? I think I wanted it to be the same color, but if my eyes deceive me, they look like a little bit different shades. But exploring more, right? There's more reason to why Olive Garden is doing this. It's not just a crazy reason. There was a study behind it that showed 85% of companies were more productive when operating like a family. Okay? They meant that metaphorically, and then rushes over to his boss's knee to be spanked before he gets to 3. And I mean, the whole scene so far is around, I'm going to spank you, no, you're not going to spank me, right? And I have talked about this in prior lessons where we want in an argument, right, we don't want to just see a stagnant argument. We want to see someone lose the argument and what happens thereafter. So in this one, even though this employee does not believe in what is going on right here, they go ahead and get spanked, because it might be something triggering from a past where when you're a kid, right? When you're a kid and they get to 3, it's always worse. So maybe he felt the pressure and remembered what it was like when his father got to 3 and rushed over there, right? Who knows the reason behind it, but this improviser chose to get spanked instead of just sitting back and forth and this and this and that, right? They wanted to progress the scene. And some places, some teams might cut it here, right? Because the one thing that we were wanting to happen or waiting to happen happened. So we might feel satiated. We might feel like, yes, the need is met, continue on. What did I put after? Now, I didn't want to do that. Just know that I love you. This is my least favorite part about being a dad. Sometimes I gotta remind myself that I'm doing the right thing by looking at this. Pulls out a macaroni card saying "World's Greatest Dad," and I chose that to be a heightening move. And although it's not bigger than spanking one of your employees, it's not bigger than that. I thought what made it bigger is that not only does this person believe that their family. Oh, we'll finish the end. Who gave you that? Sarah in accounting. So I chose it to be a heightening move, right? Because not only does the boss believe that they're family, but everyone in the office too. You know, they all believe that they're family and they act as such. So from here, it can really go anywhere. You can stop it there and continue to heighten it if you want to, like cut to a different scene. And the way that you would probably cut to different scenes, that's in another class about long form structure, where we could really talk about, you know, the different moves that you do as a team to heighten it through support moves. But what basically you're going to do is you're going to distill this game, right? And you could really label the game whatever you want. It could be, I think I wrote them down here. So professional relationships becoming too personal. Like if you wanted to label that game and do that, you can do any profession becoming too personal in the next scene. It doesn't have to have the same characters. Or another game could be like companies taking taglines too seriously. You can cut it and cut to Nike just doing it. Whatever they're doing, they're just doing it. They're not thinking about it, they're just doing it. And that is the distilling the game. I've taken both parties out of the equation. I didn't say a boss gets too personal with their employee, because that's not distilling the game, because you're leaving the two parties in there. So if you want to take that game that you just labeled, a boss gets too personal with an employee, it's a little bit open, but you want to open it up even more by not giving a relationship, because then you could take it anywhere using that same game. And I wrote down a quote that I got from also reading a book by Will Hines. It's called How to Be the Greatest Improviser on Earth. I will put it in my YouTube description, but it is in the Twitch chat right now. And he said, and this is referring to heightening, right? It says, it's by Neil Casey. He says, you can take the train to Crazy Town, but you have to take the local. And he explains it in the book. If you don't understand it, it's okay. I'm not saying I would either. I never lived in New York. But New York has a couple of different trains and subway. They have express train and a local train. The local train takes every stop, goes to every station. The express train only goes to the big stops or big stations on the way. So if you're going to go crazy, which is this one, right? Heightening sometimes can be a little bit too jarring, can be a little bit too quick. And you go to Crazy Town immediately and it kind of can't sustain itself. Where do you go once you go full-blown crazy? That's why the exploration moves are that important, so that you get to live in it. You get to see why you're making the choices and where else those choices can take you before you go to Crazy Town. And I thought that was a good quote. And again, if you want to purchase that book, I will go ahead and put in the link for you. But today, I mean, I have a lot of other stuff to talk about it in regards to game, but I don't want to go any further, honestly. Today was going to just be a fast class regardless, but I hope you learned a little bit about game, which, if you don't remember already, it is the first unusual thing to happen in a scene, right? The first thing that veers from reality. And now I'm just doing a cap. The only way you're going to be able to find that weird thing is by playing realistically. If you're starting off weird, it's going to be hard to find the not so weird thing, right? And they get these from, you can get it organically in a scene, right? You can find it organically, or you can get it from a premise that you get from an opening or from someone in the audience, a suggestion, anything like that. And the game of the scene doesn't have to be what the scene is about, but it's just a fun thing for you to play. So you want to play at the top of your intelligence, react as you would in real life, and react in the given circumstances as you would in real life. UCB Improvisation Manual gives a reference where someone goes up to you in a scene, they go, "Freeze, give me all your money, hands in the air." And a lot of people's choice, because they think it's funny, is to react really nonchalant, right? Kind of just like, "Oh my gosh, another robbery this week, please." You're normalizing it. But in reality, I don't think you would react that way. If someone had a gun at you and wanted you to give them your money, you'd go ahead and react accordingly, right? Afraid and very, you just be going with it, right? Whatever they wanted, you go ahead and do it. So that is reacting to the top of your intelligence using, marrying your emotional response with your verbal response. Sorry, I feel a little bit out of whack today, but I'll go to this end slide right here. So yeah, that was Improv Basics. Be sure to follow all my stuff. I have a YouTube where I'm going to be posting all of these classes after, and I will be actually posting a little bit more games that involve exploration, heightening, and how to find game on my YouTube channel. They will only be there. I also have an Instagram where I really don't post unless, I'm playing kickball or I found this really stupid thing that I wanted to show everyone. That's pretty much me on Instagram. But thank you guys so much for stopping by today. I really appreciate you. And hopefully it can shed light to what game is for you guys. I think I described it succinctly enough and didn't give too much fluff. That was a good rhyme. But look at that, 33 minutes. Literally half the time of what I usually do. I don't know if that's great for you guys, so you don't have to wait an hour and 20 minutes before you do something else. Or if you're like, wow, he really phoned it in today. I didn't. I just didn't want to. There's so much with game. And you guys would do the greatest service to yourself to explore it further in UCB's Improvisation Manual. And I will be back shortly. I think I'm going to be doing some more interviews and stuff like that with fellow teachers. And I want to be doing more things outside of just lessons that involve improvisation for you guys. And hopefully I'll see you then. But until then, stay blessed, stay beautiful, stay safe. I'll see you again sometime.